And today we're talking about dating in different parts of the world. We're talking about Eastern Europe, Asia, and Latin America. So I'm going to give you my personal perspective and my personal experience. Let's start with Asia, a region where I spend a lot of time in. Dating in Asia is very different to dating in Eastern Europe and Latin America. What I've learned during my time in Asia is that Asian women, they're very feminine. They have all these nice feminine characteristics that Western men love. Western men go to Southeast Asia because they want to find a traditional conservative woman. They want this traditional relationship, which perhaps they didn't have back home. Maybe back home, women are too westernized. They're too modern. They just don't fit in because they want to have a family. They want to have kids. They want to have a traditional housewife. So they go to Southeast Asia. Western women, they are very independent. They want to have their own life. They want to have their own income. And they certainly don't want to depend on their Western husband. Of course, that throws a lot of Western men apart, where they think, hey, this is not for me. This is not the type of relationship that I want to be in myself. So what are the alternatives? And oftentimes they look to the East. They look to Asia and they say, wow, look at Asian women. They're hardworking. They're very feminine. They know what they want. They want to have a good husband, a loving and caring husband. Of course, there's also other things, right? They want to have a good future. And what I mean by good future is that they want to be with a man who can provide for them. That's very important. But also it's about the passport potential. If you're from a country that's very desirable, let's say that's, Canada, the United States, Germany, Austria, Scotland, England, Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, Australia, New Zealand. If you're from any of these highly desirable countries, then you will not have a problem finding a woman in Asia because they want that. They want to have the bright future. And a lot of them want to get out of Asia because they want a better passport. And once they're in the West, they also know that their life will be better. So psychologically, they want a better life. It's human need. The biggest human need is to improve yourself. That's one of the biggest human needs that exist. So Asian women, I think you can do very well if you can be the man, meaning you want to be the financial provider, meaning you want to step up and take responsibility for the things that a man should be responsible for. If that's you, then you will probably have a good time dating in Asia and you will probably find a really good wife in Asia. I wanted to add something here. These days, Asia is changing as well. If you take a look at Vietnam, there's more and more independent women in Vietnam. A lot of them have their own businesses and it makes them happy. They have beauty businesses. Some have like restaurants, whatever it is, right? And they love that because they're passionate about it, right? So there is this need as well, but you can still find plenty of conservative women, especially in the countryside. So they do exist. However, I wanted to point out that life in the cities is changing, even in countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia. What about dating in Latin America? How does it compare to dating in Asia? I'm being asked this question quite often, actually. And what I can say about dating in Latin America is that it is more similar to dating in Asia than it is to dating in Europe or North America. Latin women, they're very affectionate, they're very family-oriented, and that's also the same with Asian women. I forgot to add this before. Latin women, they're very family-oriented. But once a Latin woman has found her man, she'll be more than happy to do whatever it takes to please her man. For a Latin woman, when she has you will be her top priority. Her family, meaning you and her children, will be her new top priority. So that's a big difference. Latin women, they're very affectionate. A lot of them are happy living in their country because they're very communal. A lot of them don't like moving out of their country because they love their country. They got their family there. So if you come in as a Westerner and you want to live in their country, I think you can have a great time. In Latin America, there's a key difference here too. You probably need to learn the local language. So that means, in most cases, Spanish. If you want to live in Mexico, in Colombia, in Argentina, you want to live in Chile, you want to live in Ecuador, Dominican Republic, Cuba, wherever you want to live, you probably need to learn Spanish. Because in Latin America, people don't speak English as much as they do in Asia. Spanish is a world language. It's a big language. It's spoken by so many people, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. So you are expected to speak Spanish in Latin America. her family, and I'm sure people around you will appreciate it, even if you just make a little bit of effort to learn the local language. In Asia, it's much easier. You can actually get by with English. If you live in Vietnam, probably don't need to speak Vietnamese. Depends on whether you want to learn it or not, or if you want to live in Thailand. For the long term, you might want to learn Thai. It's not so easy. You really need to have the enthusiasm, the time, and the patience to learn it. But in Asia, you can get by with English. In some places more than others. In the Philippines and Malaysia, you can get by with English. Vietnam and Thailand, you can probably get by with English in Vietnam. But even for the long term, you probably want to learn some Vietnamese to live in Vietnam. And in Thailand, probably want to learn some Thai. Who should consider dating in Eastern Europe? Very important question. Now, I think Eastern European women are the most modernized out of all the three groups that we're talking about in this video. This is important because a lot of people think, well, Eastern Europe, it is less developed, people make less money, the median income per capita, the median income per person is lower than it is in Western Europe, it's lower than it is in North America, it's lower than it is in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore. Yet, women have more in common with Western women than Asians do, than Latinas do. So you gotta see that. However, it's also in Eastern Europe because of the lack of economic opportunities. Women do want to be with a man who has a good income. They want to be with a man who can step up so they can be the housewife and the caretaker of your children. This is important. However, also, there is a lot of feministic women in Eastern Europe these days. Of course, there are exceptions. Eastern Europe is a huge region. So it's not just, certain parts of the Balkans. Eastern Europe includes Russia, it includes Ukraine, it includes the Baltic states, it includes Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. It includes the whole Balkan, all these countries. It includes Bulgaria, Romania. It includes all these countries, right? Each country is different. Each country is different and people think differently in each country. Each country has its own language too, right? So it's very different when you compare it to Latin America. People in Latin America speak Spanish. Of course, there are exceptions, right? Brazil. I think the key difference, if we take a look at all the three groups right now, the key difference between Eastern European women and the rest is that Eastern European women have no problem living abroad. They have no problem being distant from their family. It's just genetics. It's just ingrained in their DNA that they have no problem doing that. Different culture, very different countries, different habits, different thinking patterns, right? If you want to be with an Eastern European woman, you can expect to be with a woman who has no problem being distant from her family. There are exceptions. If you take a look at Albania, Albanians, they are more communal. But if you take a look at Russians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, these people are very independent. These women are very independent. And they typically don't mind leaving Ukraine and moving to a Western country or potentially moving with you to Asia, moving with you to Latin America. They don't mind that. They want to fully depend on the man. So again, you got to be financially responsible for them. You can have a family with them. Some of them are even happy not having kids. But in general, I'd say that Eastern European women, especially Ukrainians, Belarusians, and Russians, they typically don't have a problem moving to different parts of the world. One thing that's even more important than anything, is that they often don't have a problem adapting. That's super, super important. They are not so communal. They can easily integrate or more easily than the other two groups. So if you want that kind of lifestyle, an Eastern European woman might be a better fit than a Latina or Asian woman. Obviously, there's a lot more to be said about these three groups, and there's no doubt that we're going to discuss more thoughts in future videos. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and investment advice several times a week right now. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos.